Now, this is kind of our third step in the process, but this is steps 19 through 23 on your worksheet. We now have our board. These faces are parallel with each other. Now our next step is to square the board up. So our first step in the process is joint the best edge. Now, what's the best edge? Some of you will know right away, maybe your board has a chip in it or something. But if I look at this board, both are equally as good, but it's which edge do I like the most? Because remember, we're going to cut off part of the other edge. I like this one just because I do. So what I'm going to do, remember to close the joiner up a little bit. We just don't want any more blade exposed. How many passes do I make? Well, it depends on how the quality of the pass goes. So I'm going to start I can tell that one really nice. So now I'm going to take and I'm going to put an X on this edge so I don't lose that when I go on to the next steps. So the next step says we are going to rip off part of the board. Now we're going to do the squaring steps. Those of you that know the video on how to square up a board, you can follow the directions here, but if you need a refresher, go watch the video on how to square up a board. We're going to do the same thing. Now, from my thumbnail sketches, these are the actual sizes that I want. 12 by 17. That's different than what the rough that we've been working with. So now I'm going to set this for 12 inches. Use this side, not this side, so I have it set for 12 inches. Remember, our X goes on the fence. Remember, this is our good board here. This is always scrap out here. So I'm going to go right here. Make sure you push the boards off. That's why we have these boxes to catch them. Now, if we take a look, these are parallel. These are parallel, but our ends are not yet parallel. Now we need the miter gauge. We're going to put the miter gauge in. If you're left-handed, you can use this side. If you're right-handed, I think this is a lot easier. Now what I want to do is I want to select my best end. Now if you take a look, these don't equal out, which doesn't matter. We're going to square them up. But I want to look for cracks or just kind of bad stuff. So I think this end a little nicer, so I'm going to trim this off. And what I do is pick up the guard. I'm going to line the saw blade up just so it barely kisses the end of the board. So now I have it set right there. I'm going to bring the guard back down, pull my board back, pull down, pull back, wait for the saw to stop so you can clean that scrap out before you proceed on. Now if you notice, I only cut just a barely little tiny bit, but what did it do to the board? It made it nice and straight. Now we have 90 degrees here. So I want to put an X right here just in case the next day I don't forget about which edge it was. So now I'm going to turn it around. I'm going to cut this board. Remember my measurement is 17 inches. So I'm going to put a mark at 17. I'm going to pick this up, tight against the miter gauge. Now, tooth goes this way, tooth goes that way. This way, that way, all the ways around. So I want the tooth pointing toward my good board. This you may have to ask the teacher for to actually come over and maybe help you out a little bit the first time through. but those teeth stand out. I'm gonna put that right on my mark. Remember, it's gotta stay on here to do that. So now it's right on my mark. Guard down, ward back without moving it. Come back. Wait for the machine to stop to clear the scrap wood. Now, this is how much I cut off. Remember why we added that extra inch to the length? Do you see where between the other piece and this piece? If you only cut it to finish with, your board's gonna be too short, and I gotta start completely over. So this is why we add the inch, so we can do these things. This is how we square up the board, and in the next step, we'll show you how to trace your pattern on. If you have any questions on this, feel free to ask the teacher.